I was trying to do the whole vlog style, like YouTube stuff for a bit because I was inspired by other creators, and it was just that's a lot to do when you're trying to take it seriously and professionally rather than being the hobbyist. Was that a big switch that you had to get used to when you started doing it more professionally? I would call your videos professional.
I've kind of always tried to take a hobbyist approach on YouTube in the sense that, I'm not necessarily like a professional working photographer. Like photography has always been something that I've done mostly for fun. Of course, there's been some gigs here and there that I've done professionally, but for the most part, video is more of my professional space that I work in. So most of the creative jobs that I do involve video rather than photography. So my YouTube has always been a place where I have tried to just, keep that for fun element alive and mostly showcase just personal things that I'm interested in the world of photography. That being said, over the past 6-7 years that I've been doing it, it had I've tried to find different ways to level up the production and the people that I showcase on the channel and things like that. So there's natural progression, of course, like with anything, where I'm bringing in different elements that kind of up the production value when I feel like it's necessary. But yeah, I think I've always tried to keep the YouTube channel something that is mostly for fun, and there's been opportunities to make some money doing the YouTube channel, which has been great. But yeah, it's still mostly stuff that I would be doing otherwise, traveling, hiking, spending time outside. Like these are all activities that I'm going to be doing whether or not I have a camera with me. That's kind of been my MO, or I've tried to, keep that theme throughout the several years that I've been on YouTube. But yeah, I definitely know people that feel that struggle of trying to separate yourself from, okay, this is just a guy that's doing it for fun, to, okay, this is a person that I can look up to and learn from. And I think that it just takes time, and it takes a lot of failures as well along the way to kind of figure out where you belong in that space, and and really if that's even something that you're trying to achieve. A lot of people, they go into it for fun and they just want to keep it that way, and that's totally fine too.
I've noticed a shift, and you've talked about it on your channel in a few videos I've watched, of you trying to do those more simpler, less complicated videos, which I really enjoyed that shift because it wasn't like you weren't trying to portray yourself as something you're not. You don't want to be that guy who's trying to sell,
Right.
you have to travel to do photography. That's really nice to see because a lot of those are really travel based things. But I do want to commend you on two videos, especially that really made me reach out to you and talk to you. And those are the two videos that you did with your dad, because I thought those videos were phenomenal. My wife sat down and watched those with me, and she's like, "This is such a good channel," and she doesn't care about photography at all. But it was just really cool to see that connection and that relationship. So I wanted to give you your props on those two
Thank
episodes.
you very much. Yeah, I've had multiple people say that they either found my channel because of those videos, or those were the videos that kind of like really helped them continue to gravitate towards future videos that I would make and stuff like that. But yeah, those both those videos were just kind of like a spontaneous idea that I had, because I got into photography because of my dad, and he started on film, obviously, but he gifted me my first film camera, the Bronica SQ, as like a college graduation gift, and it was just, I was just thinking about how he gifted me a film camera, but he himself hasn't shot on film in, back then, however long it was, 20 years or something like that. So I was like, you know what, I gotta do a video where we get him back behind the camera and see if he still got it. And Cannon Beach is just one of his favorite places ever, so we decided to do it there. And then that turned into doing the, the second one in Norway, of course, and hopefully we can get the third one done on the North Shore of Oahu at some point. But yeah, that's been a fun little impromptu series that we've been doing.
It makes me want to spend more time with my parents. I watched that, and the next day I was like, hey, Mom, I want to shoot some portraits with you and Dad. And so I want them to come down and I'm going to
Sweet.
shoot some portraits of them in the studio. 'Cause, so what I do full time for work is I do video editing for a production company, and I do like small town photographer stuff. I don't do any high fashion or anything like that. It's mostly family portraits, senior portraits, which I really enjoy. So my parents don't really understand making money from the creative side of things. They're all medical, and they're kind of like slowly starting to embrace that. So I'm trying to like bridge that gap of like, well, let me take some portraits of you guys, and you
Nice.
might
That's
understand
awesome.
what I'm actually doing for
Yeah,
a
it's
living.
definitely it definitely can be something that's hard to understand for certain people that, especially if you come from like a lineage of the kind of people that do the traditional trades or traditional jobs. Fortunately for me, my dad has always been into photography, so he kind of not only understood it but helped me get going in the beginning, and introduced me to cameras and showed me that there was a path to go down to make it a career. So he was a big inspiration and a big help at the beginning of my creative journey for sure.
It's not that my parents don't support what I'm doing. They're like, that's cool, you're in your own world, but you have that person that can mentor you and point you down a path. It's such a blessing, whether it's be a parent or like somebody who's worked in the field for years. And luckily, I've been able to have that from other people. And my parent, like my mom's gone
Yeah.
with me on some trips when I was doing the vlog thing, and it's just been really great to see somebody trained to understand something they may not necessarily understand. Especially my parents are Gen X, so they don't really understand the whole digital realm of that we've experienced our whole lives. It's like, yeah, we have real genuine friends we've known our majority of our whole lives that live on the other side of the world,
That's
and it makes
funny.
no sense to them. You mentioned something in one of your videos that resonated with me about not really having a lot of close friends around home that are interested in the same things as you. Is that something that you still deal with?
Yeah, I definitely still deal with it. Fortunately, as you were just mentioning, I've been able to meet some friends through the digital world that I've connected with in real life. But even most of those people don't live near me. Only been a couple instances where I've been able to meet somebody that's in my area, and part of this is my own fault. I'm a bit of an introverted person, and I feel like the older I get, the harder it is for me to form really deep and meaningful relationships with other people. I made a lot of friends in high school, and I feel like that was the phase in my life where I kind of let people in, and ever since then, I've been more closed off than I probably should be, just for forming new friendships and relationships. I'm not sure why that is, but yeah, I'm not necessarily a super socially outgoing person, which I wish that I was more so. And I consciously try to do a better job of just talking to people that I don't know. Sparking up conversations with people at a bar or a restaurant, just getting outside my comfort zone in that regard. But it's still something that I struggle with. And in the creative world, as you probably know, relationships and friendships and collaboration is so important with progressing throughout your career. So I'd say that's definitely been a little bit of a roadblock, something that has kind of deterred me from maybe progressing at um, a, a faster rate. But yeah, it's most of I hang out with my close friends back home or here at home all the time, but none of them are creative people necessarily. Of course, to some degree, everybody's got a little creativity in them, I think, but none of them are photographers really, and none of them kind of understand the space that I work in. So yeah, it's definitely a struggle. And then whenever I link up with friends that are into cameras and photography or videography, it's always so refreshing, like being able to have conversations about things that I'm genuinely interested in, and talk about stuff that we're working on and plans for the future and stuff like that. So I can't complain. I love the community and friends that I have at home, but it is definitely a nice spark when I'm going on a trip and I know I'm going to be with some other photographers and like-minded people, because it just gets those creative juices flowing. You gets those gears turning that are so often stuck when I'm just, in and around my home and city that I live in. So got a trip coming up at the end of January with some other photographers that I'm really looking forward to, doing like a national parks road trip. So it's stuff like that you got to plan and you have things to look forward to. It's always so important to have stuff down the road that you can kind of work towards.
I have to set little goals and things for me to look forward to because otherwise I get stuck inside that rut in my head. And if I'm not hanging around with creative people, it just becomes monotonous. I've shot the same barn like 12 times in the last month. And it's because I live on an old farm and I'm just like, it's snowy, it's cold. I live in Michigan and it's just
Yeah, I bet.
miserable right now, dude. Like nightmare level. Well, today's actually, it's supposed to be like 45 degrees today. So the foot of snow is melting and then it's going to flash freeze tonight. So I know they're going to cancel school tomorrow with a sheet of ice. You guys have floods going on right now, don't you? You're out in Washington?
Yeah, I've never seen anything like it in my lifetime. If it was as severe as it is now at any point, it would have been when I was like 4 or 5 years old, I think. But yeah, luckily the area that we're in is a bit up on the hill, and we're not dealing with the severity of the flooding that other areas are experiencing. But yeah, we have like roadways up to the mountains washing away, so ski and snowboard season's looking very grim for a few mountains. And then, I mean, there's a community, 20-minute drive from where I live that is completely evacuated. The levee in that area broke, and flash flooding has started. And we had a couple of dry days this past weekend, but now it's just pouring again. So it's a bit crazy. It's definitely a big story out here right now, and kind of it's like that elephant in the room. Everybody's a little on edge because of it. But yeah, it's wild.
Sorry, I didn't mean to get sidetracked. I'm just a big weather nerd. And then I saw you were out in Washington, and I was like, oh yeah, there's floods going on out there. But I watched the levee break on a live stream. There's a storm chaser that's out there covering it. His name's Connor Croft, and it was wild, man. It was crazy. I was like, oh my god, these poor people, man. It's we don't really deal with that level of flooding here.
My lifetime, I have no memory of it ever being this bad. And it just is like, it's funny because I tell people, like, it doesn't rain as much as you think in Washington. Everybody's always obsessed with this idea that like Seattle is the rainiest place ever, and it just rains and rains and rains. And I feel like it was like people always overstated that. And like our winters are pretty mild, relatively speaking, like in the Midwest and the East Coast. Like the severity of the winters out there is like really cold temperatures, really harsh conditions, it seems like. And we get a bit of rain out here, but for the most part, it's just kind of like, 45 to 55 degrees and just a lot of overcast. It's not necessarily raining all the time. And then, of course, like going into this winter, it's just been torrential downpour for 3 weeks straight, and it hasn't stopped raining. So I guess I'm eating my words on that one. But yeah, hoping that, everybody's staying safe. And it seems like we have some great um, rescue teams in place and everything. So it seems like everyone's doing a good job making sure people stay safe and whatnot. But yeah, it's been kind of jaw dropping and sad at the same time to watch it all unfold.
Have you considered shooting some of the events going on film, or is that more not your style?
Yeah, I have. I wanted to get up more towards the mountains at some point, not necessarily to shoot it, but just to go look at some of the rivers up there, because the videos that I saw, a lot of these rivers I spend time photographing and in the summer, and they're areas that I explore frequently. And I've never seen, rivers flowing this high, like Snoqualmie Falls, which is a big waterfall out in North Bend here, popular tourist spot. It's flowing at like 10 to 15 times the rate that it usually does. And I mean, the videos are unbelievable. So I wanted to just get up there and see it in person just to check it out and, feel that energy, I guess. But I haven't been able to yet. So yeah, we'll see this weekend. It's looking like the rain is going to continue, so I might try to get up there and see what's going on. But yeah, not the easiest conditions to shoot in either. It's like I'm not super eager to bring my camera out into like gale force winds and torrential downpour, but it would definitely be an interesting subject to photograph.
I have a lot of friends that do search and recovery after storms and stuff like that, and some of them are the trauma photographers who have to go and like document everything that's happened. And some of them work for National Weather Service and stuff like that, doing tornadoes, floods, earthquake type things. And I don't think I could ever be one of those photographers. I like landscapes
Yeah.
and portraits, but as far as damage stuff, man, I don't think I have the
Yeah.
heart to document somebody else's suffering like that. Like
Yeah.
war
That's
photography could never do
that's
that.
kind of how I feel about it as well. A few years ago, I thought that you know that genre of photography is something that I was maybe interested in getting into, like war photography. But the older I've gotten, the more I don't feel like I have the mental capacity, the mental fortitude to document stuff like that. And then there's also like a moral dilemma that I think I would struggle with very heavily. But no, there's some very professional photographers out there that do a great job of finding that fine balance and make it known to the world what's going on, but also do so in a delicate way. And big props to them. I don't think I have that capacity.
I do not have that in me, man. Since I've had kids, I've turned into a big softie. So like I think if I was younger and still brain dead and like just wandering through life,
Yeah.
I would have done it.
Yeah,
But
fair enough.
no, now I like just like going out where there's like emptier places or barely occupied places, which seems like that's what you like to shoot as well. And one thing I've been obsessed with lately is trying to figure out what draws us to those situations. Is it because we spend so much time around people or because we want the solitude?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think lines a lot with the fact that I'm, as I mentioned, a bit introverted, and I've always been very comfortable doing things by myself. I can go to a bar by myself, go play pool by myself. I can go to a movie by myself. Like I've always been fine just doing things on my own. And I know a lot of my friends would find that odd or uncomfortable. But yeah, being alone has always been something that I've been totally fine with. And I started traveling by myself in my teenage years and going on road trips by myself. Did a big Europe trip when I was like 20 years old. And yeah, just spent like 3 weeks kind of meandering through Europe, and it was just me. And I don't know why I always felt so comfortable just being on my own, but that definitely has uh, translated into what I find interesting in the world of photography. Being out in these big, open, vast landscapes by myself is totally a normal thing for me. And I love the solitude. I love the time it gives you to reflect and just kind of learn a little bit more about yourself, develop as a person. And photography is such a great art form to kind of help you progress through stuff that you might be struggling with. And it's just a great excuse to get outside and see new things. So anytime I'm going on a trip, a camera comes with me, and whether or not I'm gonna make a YouTube video about every trip, it's sometimes I film things and they don't end up being there's not enough stuff to make a video about it. But it's not like I'm going out there specifically to make a YouTube video all the time. It's I like to go out and have an experience, have my camera with me, document it, and if it turns into something that I can kind of form a story around, that's great. But yeah, I like being kind of isolated sometimes. And I think with photography, like when I watch videos about street photography, it gives me anxiety. Like those interactions that some people have, and some people are really aggressive with getting the camera into strangers' faces. And I would just have a really, really difficult time doing anything like that. I mean, I have more and more of a difficult time just walking through the neighborhood here where I live in Washington, whereas a few years ago I could walk down the street and take photos of people's houses and do that kind of photography no problem at all. But now I notice myself getting more anxious even just walking through the neighborhood, like people going to be watching me through their windows thinking that I'm scouting the area, like what are people going to think? I have these thoughts more and more as I get older. So when you can get out into big open spaces, landscapes, the beautiful landscapes that we have here in Washington, the big mountains, and just be by yourself, you don't have to worry about any of that. And then the subject matter has always been interesting to me as well, because a lot of the areas that I photograph are completely unchanged by time, relatively speaking, for hundreds and hundreds of years. So it's fascinating to me to be out in an area and look out at a landscape and think to myself, this is pretty much what it looked like, 100, 200, 300 years ago, however long. I love that feeling, and you don't get that when you're in a city, because things are constantly changing. You're always surrounded by change whenever you're in a city, but you get out into an open space, a landscape, into the mountains, and you can kind of turn back the clock and experience things as they were, which I find fascinating.
I've recently discovered, I went to Arizona last month and got married.
Nice, congratulations.
Thank you. But being out in an area I've never been to before, I'd never been to the desert, and there was nobody around. We were out in the middle of nowhere on the way to Monument Valley. And on the way home, it was dark. So we had a 3-hour drive back to our Airbnb, and we just stopped alongside the road and got out and looked. And I'd never seen that many stars in my life. You couldn't see an artificial light anywhere. This is the most desolate highway I've ever been on in my life. And I was like,
Yeah.
this is what it used to be like. And it was like a real sadness that hit me, because I'd have to go back out there to try to find stars like that. I thought stars in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan were crazy, but it was nothing. You could see every star, and it made me sad that not a lot of people get to see these things. It was semi recently in modern history, LA lost power, and people called 911 because they saw the Milky Way. And it's just, that's nuts to me, man. It's crazy. It was, I thought I knew what stars were until I saw real stars, and now I'm sad about it because
Yeah.
other people don't get to experience it. And I appreciate photographers and artists who try to preserve that for somebody else. Like the locations, not necessarily the stars, but locations, events, and happenings. I think that's what every photographer wants to be remembered for at some point, is
Yeah.
capturing something
Yeah.
that's now
Well,
gone.
really well said. Yeah, I had a similar experience when I was out backpacking back in 2022. I made a video about this trip. It was to Gem Lake, out in the Cascade Mountains, and it was the first time that I had looked up at the sky and very clearly saw the Milky Way, and it just completely blew me away. I mean, I've been to a few places in Washington on a few different occasions where I've looked up and you can, see way more stars than you would usually see here in the city in Tacoma or whatnot. And those experiences have been really cool and eye-opening. But this one particular backpacking trip, when I looked up at the sky and just saw like the galaxy, I mean, it really was a profound experience. And it's kind of funny to think back, a few hundred years ago when those types of views were available to people regularly. And not only that, but these natural phenomenons like volcanic eruptions, or great lightning storms or tornadoes. If people a few hundred years ago experienced these things, it's like, well, no wonder all these gods and mythical uh, figures were created. It's like, how else do you explain these things, unless you have the scientists and whatnot to figure out exactly what's going on. But it's like, yeah, no wonder like Zeus and all these crazy gods were created, because it's like how I look at like a volcanic eruption or some crazy natural event these days, and it's like, it's even hard to explain how that happens now that we do know the science behind it, and it's pretty incredible. And that's one of my big draws, I think, to being outside and being in nature is you feel that power to some degree. You're not always going out and experiencing a crazy event like that, but just being out and being next to a flowing river, like that's one of my favorite things to do is just go and fish or go and photograph next to a river. And you get this overwhelming sense of vastness and the way, and it's so curious to me how it all connects and works. Like I look up at Mount Rainier, which is a 2-hour drive from where I live, and the fact that that one mountain feeds like almost all of our rivers, all the snow melt and the glacier activity up there. It's powerful enough to feed all those rivers that flow out from it and out into the Puget Sound. It's really fun to reflect on those things, and I enjoy being out in nature and kind of feeling that firsthand as much as I can.
I agree with you. I'm working on this art. I don't. Do you know what Substack is?
Yeah,
Okay, so I have a Substack where I write a lot, and I'm currently working on.
I'll have to subscribe.
Oh, do you have
I
one?
don't like post on it, but I have one to look at what other people
Yeah,
are posting. So, yeah, please send it my way.
yeah. I'll
Sweet.
send it over on Instagram after we're done here. But I'm working on this idea that I got from seeing those stars about maybe the reason we like going out into nature so much is because inside of our heads feels big. It's an entire world, a galaxy inside our own heads, and maybe going out and seeing and experiencing these things in nature remind us just how small we are and like the world's
Totally.
yeah, the galaxy and the world's scary, but you're just a small part in that cog of wheels that keeps things going. It's a very human experience. We don't have to worry about the modern world when we're out in those places. Some of that noise goes away. It's like those people who are obsessed with grounding and putting their feet on the ground. Like,
Exactly.
I don't know if they're right in that aspect, but I know it feels good to do it
100%.
sometimes. It may not be scientific, but it might be like, I don't want to say it's spiritual. It's a humbling experience.
Yeah, that the grounding thing's interesting. I don't personally know the science behind it, but I do feel like it kind of taps into that primal nature that every human has in them. Like one of the things I love about going out and backpacking is when you're when you're at home and you're going about your day-to-day life, there's so many little things that maybe make you anxious, so many little stressors that in the grand scheme of things don't matter. But because we've all become accustomed to this very comfortable lifestyle of having power, having a heat source, having food readily available, just down the road, we can go and get food made for us. We don't have to worry about all these things anymore. We've grown into a species that's so good at finding new ways to be comfortable. When you go out backpacking, you just go out for a day and do a hike out in the mountains, and you're away from all of that. It taps back into what I think at the core makes us human, and we're all survivalists. We at the end of the day, we're a species that the goal is to survive, and you really feel that when you get out into these big mountain landscapes and you go away from the city. All of a sudden, you know I'm not worried about all these little minute details of my day-to-day life. All of a sudden now I'm worried about, okay, I gotta like make food. It's gotta like replenish my calories. Like I just did a big workout, and like just the simple act of making a freeze-dried meal out in the backcountry and just having a warm meal out there, it brings me so much satisfaction and so much fulfillment. Whereas when I'm sitting at my house, and I go and get Chipotle and sit down to eat it, I don't think anything of it. It's like, okay, going through the motions again. But suddenly when you go out and you go backpacking, that same action has so much more reward to it. And I think that just kind of it helps your brain tap into, okay, what am I like really here for? And what is the core purpose of us? And it's I think it's always been to survive and prevail. And um just now we live in a society that has found a really good way to make all these little important aspects of our lives super comfortable and super easily accessible for many people. But Yeah, some of my favorite like YouTube channels to watch are kind of those survivalists, like go out and make a hut,
Outdoor
like
boys.
outdoor boys, like that. Like there's a reason why so many people gravitate towards his videos. Of course, he's super fun to watch, and he's got a great personality, and bringing his kids along in all the adventures is really wholesome. And there's many reasons why his channel is so popular, but I think a big reason why it is as popular as it is because humans want that experience. They want that more primitive experience. Not all the time. I'm not saying, go out and live in the woods for the rest of your life, because that would bring along a lot of stresses as well. But I think there's a balance between where we were a couple hundred years ago and where we are now. Like when everything is so comfortable, you start finding new ways to become stressed out and anxious, that really there's no reason to be anxious and stressed about these things. It's like at the end of the day, you got air to breathe, a shelter to sleep in, food to eat, and water to drink. Like backpacking, being outside reminds you of that. It's like, okay, I got the basics here. Out in this beautiful area, looking up at the stars. Life is pretty good. I love that element of hiking and backpacking and being outside. And I'm fortunate that Washington has so many areas to do that in. That's, just a couple hours away from my house.
I am so incredibly jealous of where you live, man.
Hey, come out anytime. We'll go on a hike or a backpacking trip. I love, like,
Yeah.
it's one of my favorite things to show, like, introduce people to. It's because it's a daunting thing for many people to get into. And what kind of gear do you need to bring, where do you go? Like, it's a kind of a intimidating thing, I think, for a lot of people, even though I've spoken to many people who like want to get into it, but it's like, where do I start? And I don't live in an area that has these great trails. So I try to do my best to help people and guide them towards, maybe it's not going way up in the mountains and doing some crazy alpine lake hike, but you can still have a similar experience just going out on a local trail or a wilderness area. It doesn't need to be something crazy, but just getting outside, sleeping in a tent, bringing some freeze dried meals and filtering water from a creek, like that's still going to get the job done. So I love helping people in that regard. So anytime you want to come out and do a hike or backpacking trip, please let me know.
Dude, I would love it. So I'm fairly experienced with camping. We go camping quite often. But the back trail camping where we have to like pack our stuff in and the freeze dried food thing, like usually we have like a cooler, but not like the RV style camp. Like we'll go to the state park campgrounds where it's very rural. There's no amenities. It's just here's a fire ring, here's a table. We don't have the electrical water hookup kind of thing. We avoid those places. But I want to get more into that backcountry style because I see so many people do it and I get
Yeah.
like amped up to do it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, well, I
Right.
don't want to do that alone because knowing I'd run into a
Yeah.
predator. I don't like that. Granted, you guys have more predators than we do. We have like mountain lions and coyotes and wolves. Those are the three big ones in Michigan. Well, we got black bears, but they leave you alone. I don't
Yeah.
know. That's my anxiety because I suffer from anxiety too, and I've noticed you've brought it up a couple times about anxiety, and that's something I've struggled with more since COVID. And I don't know if that was like a trigger for it, but it seems like a lot more people got anxious and paranoid and like there was a societal shift there where everybody's afraid to talk to everybody else and they're suspicious of everybody now. And I've noticed it too since then specifically. And I'm wondering if that's when it
Yeah.
happened.
I mean, it definitely had some effect on it. I think, and I think there's cor- correlation between staying at home more and that rise in anxiety. Obviously, there's other factors like a global pandemic and the actual illness itself, and a lot of other factors contributed to the anxiety. But I do think, like, when you, I mean, I notice it when I'm stuck at home and the weather's bad, and I'm just editing for like 3 or 4 days straight. I start getting tensed up. I start getting like I'm just like just little things around the house start to irritate me, stress me out, and you got to take a step back and be like, really, I'm getting anxious because, like, I have a few, but like my cats are leaving their cat toys in my room, and it's like that's what's causing me to be anxious now. So I think there's definitely a correlation between the the COVID years, and when everyone was kind of not only on edge about the actual COVID-19, but then just not being able to, not feeling like they were able to just go, go outside and go for a walk, or even on the trails out here in Washington when that was going on. It was like, everybody would walk by each other with a mask on, and everybody would kind of look at each other like, all right, should you be out here? Should I be out here? Like, is this fine? So like even when people were trying to get outside and escape, there was always some sort of tense feeling, I think, but there was a, massive increase in the amount of people that started going outside. I think once COVID started to slow down, and once 2023, 2024 came rolling around, like I know a lot of people in Washington talk about how many more people are out on the trails these days, and a lot of people get frustrated with it, but it's hard to gatekeep that because it's had so much positive effect on my life that I would hate to limit it for anybody else that might get the same kind of positive effect. Of course, I think there's people that go out and spend time on the trails and hike that maybe don't have the best intentions, but no, I love helping people get out on the trail, and I get criticized for like sharing the locations that I hike at sometimes, but I mean, if I'm out on the trail, there's no reason why anyone else can't be, and just how beneficial it's been for my own life. I just can't imagine restricting someone else from having similar positive experiences. And I try to do so in a way that's respectful to people that have been hiking for a long time. And I do feel for all of us when the facilities at a trailhead aren't able to keep up with the amount of people that are using the outdoor spaces and whatnot. But yeah, I think I think it's all about intention, and if you go into it and you respect the outdoor space and respect the other people using it, then that's all you can do. But yeah, the COVID stuff was definitely a big shift in the whole anxiety, like how many people were talking about anxiety and being stressed, and then people trying to find ways to cope with it. And I think getting outside was a big way to mitigate that for a lot of people.
I will say I do think COVID was a big contributor in the new rise of film photography.
100%.
That's when a lot of the, because I did digital for the longest time, and then suddenly film photography was like the main thing on YouTube. Jason's channel is the one that really got me sucked into film
Yeah.
photography, and I was like, well, I'll give that a whirl. And now I'm in crippling financial debt,
It
but
happens to all
it's
of us.
I don't know. For me, film changed. It changed a lot for me. I mean, it gave me this show, and it gave me a whole new set of friends, and it gave me a new outlook on photography itself. And I know it's that lame thing about like, oh, it slows you down, and it didn't slow me down. I burned through so much film, probably just as much as digital. It changed the way I photograph the world, but on my way to that journey of discovering film photography, there were gatekeepers there too, just like there are gatekeepers for the trails. You can't gatekeep nature, and I don't think you can gatekeep hobbies like film. It's just people wanting to have a sense of power over somebody else by knowing more about something, and they're so afraid of losing that. Do you still deal with gatekeepers in photography even that are just like, well, you're just blah, blah, blah?
I try to remove myself from any situation that would lead to that, I guess. Because I feel like I'm maybe not as involved in the film photography community as people like Jason are, or like Willem anymore. Like I think the first like 2 or 3 years that I went down the YouTube film photography road, I was just kind of making videos about what I saw other film photographers making videos about, which was what camera, like shooting Portra 400 through my Bronica SQ. Like those were that was what the videos were about when I first started. And I made many, many videos about shooting various film stocks on different cameras in different locations. Um, but I feel like the last couple of years, and I don't mean this in like a pretentious way at all, but I've just kind of found my own lane that I like to operate in, and it's not so much focused on that stuff anymore. So I think after I removed myself from that kind of niche and those types of videos, um, a lot of like the gatekeeping, I guess, that I experienced at the beginning also went away. Every other hobby that I ever got into growing up, I'd always immediately look towards the people that were doing it best. And then every decision that I would make would be influenced by somebody else. When I got into film photography, I obviously started watching, people like Willem and Jason and some other people on YouTube, and that did influence me as into what kind of videos I was making and what I was photographing and the film stocks that I was using. But I decided to try to make a conscious effort to really explore this new hobby, being film photography, completely on my own and just see where it takes me and not be too much influenced by other really well-known photographers. Like, I feel guilty about this, but I don't really own any photo books, and that's such a controversial way to go about it, I think, because you want to draw inspiration from other people. But this is one thing that I think I want to go and experience completely on my own and just see where I end up. And I want to photograph things that are interesting to me. I want to find my own style that is, that provides a fun shooting experience and also decent final images. And that, it might it might be a never-ending journey of finding out exactly where I belong in this space, but that was something that I decided like a year or two in was, you know what? Let's just go down this road on my own. Obviously, I've enjoyed meeting people along the way, and I love having these types of conversations about photography. But as far as, photo books and other photographers and looking at other people's work, I've kind of limited myself just because I want this one hobby to be my own adventure. Obviously, it's really aligned with my interests that I already had, like hiking and traveling. It's just they naturally go hand in hand. But I think that's another reason why I haven't really made photography something that I do professionally. I don't know exactly yet where I completely belong in the photography world, or what I'm really good at and really not good at. It's something that it's just, I think for the next 10 or 20 years, I'm going to continue to figure it out. And there might be a phase where I'm really into landscapes, and then a phase where I'm really into portraits, and then a phase where I'm really into, maybe I'll get into street photography. I highly doubt it, but maybe it'll happen, like, I just don't know. And I don't want to limit myself to one genre. I don't want to just shoot landscapes, because there's so many things that I love to do just for fun, with or without a camera. Bringing a camera along on those experiences has not only provided me just always something to do, when I'm out, when I take a trip and I'm walking through a city. It's a lot more fun to walk through a new city when you have a camera with you. And that's been the most beneficial part of getting into film photography, I think, along with meeting some really cool people along the way. It's just, I always have something to do. Like, when I'm out backpacking, there'd be so much downtime if I didn't photograph those trips. Just kind of like, all right, my camp's set up, my food's made. Like, what do I do? I could like bring a book and read or whatnot, but like bringing a camera up there with me, I always have something to do. Not only something to do, but something that I think is genuinely good for myself and good for others. It fills that creative void in me. And then it also gives other people an opportunity to see a place that they may never get to see in their lifetime. Like some of the mountains we have up here in Washington, obviously not everybody's going to be able to come out here and experience that throughout their life, but making videos about my trips and then taking photos on my trips, it allows people to kind of get a perspective that they may not otherwise see. So yeah, that was a little tangent on the gatekeeping question, but
I think that one thing you were great at is storytelling. I talked about this with Dave Herring yesterday, and I was talking about storytelling, and we both think that storytelling is going to be the way that people in the very near future are differentiating themselves. People were obsessed, like you said, with what film, with what camera, and things like that. But I think there's a shift coming, like there used to be back before social media, about you're telling stories through your photography. And now that we have the
yeah.
advantage of using words and video to accompany those things, the storytelling can only improve. And then in 10 years, it's going to swing back the other way, where it's just posting only bangers on Instagram.
Definitely could see that being the case. It's funny you bring that up, because I always feel like the photography by itself. When I go out and photograph my hikes or backpacking trips or travels and I get the images back, I'm not necessarily seeing like a story, and maybe that's just me. Like I think that's why I use video so much, is because I feel like I can craft the story so much better with video. Obviously, you have all these different elements like motion and audio and things that you just don't have with a still image, but that's one thing. What's one area that I always have felt like struggle with, but I don't necessarily know that it's even necessary to tell a story with each photo that I take. You know, like sometimes I just see a beautiful alpine lake and I just want to capture it. And then I try to capture it in a way that is as visually pleasing as possible, you know, from a composition standpoint. That's one thing that I feel like I was kind of blessed with at an early age, is like just understanding what makes a good composition. And I feel like it almost is annoying sometimes because it's like a switch that I can't turn off. So when I'm like just going through my day-to-day life, I mean, every photographer I'm sure experiences it, but like you're always looking at things
Yeah.
in the sense of, okay, how could this become a picture? Like it's like a compositional lens that you just look through at all times. But yeah, you know, that's really the only thing that I intentionally focus on when I take photos is the composition and how whatever it is that I'm photographing, how it's framed. But otherwise, and maybe you have some thoughts on this, but like I struggle with, you know, is there really a story in landscape photography, and does it even matter if there is?
I think there's a possibility you could tell a story with landscape photography, but I think it needs either a significant natural element to it or it needs some kind of small human element to it. I know everybody likes to pretend there's a story in every photograph. And for a lot of the landscape stuff, I'm like, yeah, that's pretty.
Yeah, right.
And yeah, you try to tell, and I've actually tried to focus more on, yeah, I shoot a lot of landscapes, but I like to shoot landscapes that has that small human element to it, where maybe you could be like, well, what happened here? Why is this here? When we were out in Arizona, I shot, there's these little, I don't know if you've ever been out that way, but there's these little stands all along one of these rural highways where the people that live on the Hopi Reservation can set up stands and sell their jewelry and stuff. And there was a lot of empty ones because it's like off season when we were there. And I took a photo of one of these, and it was one of my favorite photos from the trip. It's nothing special. It's just like the corner of a stand out in the open desert. But that's for me, that tells a story, and maybe not so much a story as asks a question. I like photos that ask questions, and in a roundabout way, I'm saying I agree with you that not every landscape photo can tell a story. I think it's easier to tell a story with the human elements in documentary style photography, which I suck at. There has to be a human element to tell that story. I don't think nature can tell you a story through a photograph unless it's like a volcanic eruption. Like the series of photos of Mount St. Helens erupting where the whole side of the mountain slid off. That to me is storytelling through nature. But as far as a still, it's just you're shooting computer background wallpapers, and that's I like doing that. I'll do that. My own photos like a landscape background that I took because I'm conceited and selfish and prideful. But yeah, I think it happens to all of us. Every now and then,
Oh
we're
yeah.
like, that one's going on the background of the phone.
Me too. I got one on my computer right now.
I do. I even set one to my phone. I'm so ashamed. I finally got rid of Godzilla and picked one of my own photos.
My phone too is one of my favorite photos from Glacier National Park.
Mine's Hocking
Heck
Hills,
yeah.
Ohio.
I got to get out. I got to get out there and try some landscape stuff out there.
Oh, dude. There ain't landscapes for shit here. There ain't nothing here. Like Upper Peninsula is okay, but if you like flat land, I got the place for you, dude. I'm surrounded by corn and soybeans.
Okay. I'm always up for like a challenge though.
That's the only place in Ohio worth going. And I don't care if somebody from Ohio gets mad.
Is there a national park?
I think Hocking Hills is a state park.
Okay.
In Ohio. We have 2 national forests in Michigan. We do have a national park. We have Sleeping Bear Sand Dunes.
Okay.
Up on the northwest coast of Michigan, which is awesome, but don't think you're going to walk over those dunes and see the lake right on the other side.
Yeah.
I fell for that. Don't
Okay.
believe it, dude. But I won't post this part if you don't want me to, but do you already know which national parks you're going to on the road trip?
Yeah.
I don't want to like spoil your video
No,
for you. Or anything.
you can post whatever you'd like. I'm going to like Zion, Bryce Canyon, Monument Valley, because I know those are like some of the most popular ones, but I have not explored that area at all. I've never seen the Grand Canyon. I've never been to really explored Utah. I've just like flown into the Salt Lake City. So that area is just like that classic American West, the frontier, like that style. I know it's cliche, but it's genuinely like my favorite landscape. And out in Washington, there's definitely some hikes that kind of give me a lens into that world, and I always gravitate towards those hikes, the more kind of like open red rock spaces that remind me of like the Western movies that I watched growing up. And I just love that whole world. I just love it. I don't know why, but yeah, I'm really excited to check it out, because all my photography friends that have been there say it's just unbelievable. So got to make sure I bring plenty of film. And yeah, I know they've all been photographed many times, but I always think like even if something's been photographed a bunch before, there's, you haven't taken a photo of it. So
You can make it special.
yeah,
You're better than all those other girls.
find a way, maybe.
When I went out there, I took 40 rolls of film
Wow.
with me. And we were there a week. And I made it through most of the way through that
Really?
bag of film.
Wow.
Yeah.
What 35 or media or the Mamiya or the what is that Mamiya?
Mamiya 645. But I shot. So my daily carry will always be the Canon A1. I love the Canon A1.
Yep.
That is like an extension of my body,
Nice.
dude. I love that camera. And this one was actually given to me recently. It was a gift from a guest on the podcast.
Oh, no way.
She's like, it's just sitting in my closet. Yeah, dude.
That's
and she sent
awesome.
me like packs of Ektar. She sent me some Portra.
Wow.
And she's like, I don't use this. She almost exclusively shoots Phoenix.
Really?
Yeah, dude, and it's great. It's good. She got me to shoot good Phoenix. I was like,
Wow.
holy shit, she knows what she's talking about.
That's awesome.
But this is recently new, and I need to get a strap for it because I feel like I'll shoot it more if I have a strap.
Oh yeah.
It's nice. The Canon A1 and the Canon A2E are the 3 film cameras I took with me.
Nice.
And then I shoot Sony for digital, so I brought that with me.
Yep.
I was gonna film the whole trip and make a little vlog about. I didn't film a damn thing, dude. I got like 45 seconds of footage, and then everything else is stills. That wasn't the reason we were there. We were definitely there to 100% just get married, not so I could have an
Right.
excuse to have a photo trip.
Totally.
When are you going to the Grand Canyon?
We aren't going to the Grand Canyon, but we're just doing Zion and Bryce Canyon and Monument Valley, and then maybe if we have time, Capitol Reef, but most likely not, because you know how it goes with photo trips. You're not only going to the national parks, but stopping every 10 minutes along the way too. So yeah, it's probably going to be a time crunch. We got like a week to do those, and then we're doing 2 days in Vegas at the end of the trip. So trying to pack everything into like 8 days. But yeah, I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be with one of my buddies that he went on one of those photo trips that I hosted back in 2022 to Alaska. He came on that trip. He lived in California at the time, and then he ended up moving up here to Washington. Just wanted, change in scenery, and likes the mountains a lot. And luckily, me and him have become really good friends. So I guess I do have one other photographer in the area that can talk shop with. But yeah, he's coming on the trip, and then a couple guys from California as well. So it's gonna be fun.
I'm trying to put together something like that with some other film photographers. A lot of my film photographer friends live in like South Korea, Canada, Germany, and we talk all day, every day. But the one journey I have 2 journeys I want to take next year. I want to go down to Southern California because my friend Ulysses lives down there, and that whole area. He lives like an hour from Joshua Tree, and the American Southwest and everything. That's my aesthetic, dude. I watched Tombstone at a formative age, and that shit looked cool.
Yep.
So I want to go that, and like the old neon signs that every film photographer is drawn to, because I think we're just secretly moths in a previous life, and we're just attracted to those lights, man. I love that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Just I'm drawn to the 50s and 60s aesthetic of America. Mm-hmm. And I think that naturally led to film photography for me. I will say Monument Valley is going to mess with your sense of scale because of how flat everything is on the way. It's like desolate flat on the way there, and then suddenly there's these giant monoliths out in the middle of nowhere. We saw it from 40 miles away before we got to it. It was nuts.
Jeez.
I've never been able to see that far in my life because I'm surrounded by trees here. I've never seen 40 miles in any direction, and I don't know how to explain that, man.
Yeah.
Arizona was a gigantic reset for my expectations of the West.
I love like going to a new place that you've seen a bunch of photos of, and then you get there and realize like, okay, you thought the photos were like magnificent, and then you go and experience it in person, and it's just a whole different level of scale. And yeah, like there's just nothing beats like seeing it in person, because there's so many places where really like no photograph is gonna quite do it justice. You know, you can get the greatest photographer out there and get the greatest lighting and the greatest angle, but still like you're never gonna quite capture the true essence and scale and you know, whatever it is, vastness of actually being there. So I'm excited to go check out these places that I've seen so many photos of, but I just know I'm gonna be completely blown away.
Monument Valley messed with my sense of scale as far as like walking up to something and not being able to understand what was going on. I've seen billions of pictures of the Grand Canyon at this point in my life,
Yeah.
and that was the crazy. I just was walking up, and you could see the drop off, and I was like, "Oh, okay, you're gonna see the bottom soon." No, you don't.
Yeah.
You don't see that bottom soon, dude. You can walk all the way up to the edge of it, and you still not seeing the bottom of that thing
Crazy.
where we saw it from. We were actually supposed to get married on the rim of it when we
Oh
were there,
wow.
but yeah, so we like paid for to. It's shockingly cheap. It was only like $250 to
Oh,
rent the rim, but
sick.
then the location we picked, you can't park down there the time of year we were there, which they didn't tell us. So we'd have to take a shuttle and wear the tuxes and stuff down
Oh,
there. So we just went out into the, like, we found a really recluse canyon in Williams, Arizona, where we just went and got married at the top of that one with nobody else around for miles.
nice.
Like, it took us an hour and a half to get there, and it was 17 miles from our Airbnb.
Jeez.
I think it was more memorable to go to that backcountry place where we got married because, like, people get married at the Grand Canyon every day. I don't think anyone's ever been married at that weird ass canyon. And I don't know. I like the big places like the Grand Canyon, Monument Valley, Zion. But the places I like the most are the places in between there. I have to set a destination in my phone, and I know I'm going to stop 7 million times on the way to that
Oh yeah.
destination. I took a solo road trip over the summer, and it's a 3-hour drive from where I live, and it took me 8 hours to get to the location.
Yep.
And then I drove right back home.
Yeah.
it took me 2.5 hours to drive home, and I'm like, why do I do this to myself?
I've been there, and that's another reason why I photograph alone so much. I a lot of my friends, you know, they aren't necessarily into photography, but they're into doing things outside, hiking or snowboarding, biking, whatever it is, you know. And so they'll always say like, "Oh, like let's go on a hike," and like just I don't mind at all if you film and take photos, like let's just do it together. And I'm like, you don't understand. Like it's gonna it's not just going on a hike and like me stopping a couple times and taking photos. Like it's a whole ordeal, and like we're gonna stop before we even get to the hike. And like they could tell me as many times as they want. Like I don't care, it's fine. Like I want you to, you know, do your thing and do your photography or whatever. I just feel too guilty about it when I'm out there, and it's like, okay, I'm pulling the car over again. Let me get my stuff out, do my, you know, it's like, I just, it's one of the reasons why I end up doing stuff on my own so much. And it was only like a couple years ago that I started to feel comfortable doing it, even with my own girlfriend. And she's a photographer too, you know, like it's just making the videos about photography on top of the photography itself. It's just so much it's so much easier for me to do that when I'm by myself, I think. And anytime there's anyone with me, even if they offer to help film or whatever, I just there's something in the back of my head that's going like they don't want to be doing this. And I'm such like I try to be a people pleaser, and so like anytime I feel like they might be uncomfortable or burdened by what I'm doing, it instantly throws me off. And then all of a sudden I'm not myself when I'm talking to the camera, and I'm not like looking at things the same way that I'd be looking at them if it was just me out there in my own element, you know, comfortable with, you know, because when I'm out there by myself, it's just like, okay, I'm I'm just gonna do what I do, and there's nobody hovering over me, or at least the feeling that somebody's hovering over me, you know. So I think that's another reason why I end up doing things by myself so much. But it'll be nice, I think, hopefully being with three other guys that are big into photography. I know they're going to be wanting to stop just as much as I am, and I'm looking forward to this trip because it should just be, shooting a ton of film and being able to make a video out of it. So going into it, telling myself to not feel guilty about any side of the road stops, or stopping off for an extra photo or two on the way to where we're going. So I think everybody's going to be on the same page there.
Dude, it'd be a great trip because I when I'm out filming, when I was doing the vlog stuff, it was usually my family with me, and even then I'd feel so guilty.
Yeah.
The kids are like, "We're hungry." I'm like, "But the light's so good."
Oh
And
my
it's like,
god.
"Fine, we're gonna go. We'll stop at Chipotle and get some food." Damn it!
Yeah. Oh my gosh, that's hilarious.
I had to drive most of the time when we were in Arizona, and I locked up the brakes one time so hard, and my daughter is sitting behind me, dude, and her phone came by my head. It like mocked Jesus, just like going, and I was like, and she's like, "What are you doing?" I
Oh
was
my.
like, "There's a Hopi, like they called it a spirit totem on the side of the road. It was like these three pronged heads that they'd painted faces on, and people had shoved coins and memorabilia things into the top of these Hopi spirit totems, and it was so cool. I loved it." But yeah, I almost, dude, I went from 80 to 0,
Yeah.
and
Hey.
the brakes in the rental car were great. I didn't expect that stop to be so prompt.
Yeah, that's something you got to look for on future rental cars. Make sure they got good photo stopping brakes.
I usually wrap these up with some questions, like existential or personal questions. One I feel like I should ask you is, do you think you're using photography to understand the world, or are you using photography to understand yourself?
I think I'm using photography to understand the world, but as I mentioned earlier, I think it's like a secondary device to just this experiences that I'm already having. Like I don't go, it's very rarely now that I'm going out with this, or going on a trip, traveling, hiking with like the specific intention of, okay, I'm going out to take photos. It's like, okay, I'm going on a trip to just go on the trip and experience whatever I am going to experience while I'm traveling, hiking, or whatever. And then I have the camera with me to better that experience, I guess, is what I'm trying to say. It's like a secondary mechanism as opposed to my primary lens that I'm, looking at the world through. Like I try to just go out, have an experience, take a trip, and learn from, having conversations with other people. Trying to get better at that. Visiting sites that I've never seen before, learning about cultures in different areas, and then just having the camera with me to document those moments helps me understand them a little bit better, and then also always provides a way to like have some sort of memory of that experience. Like scrolling through my camera roll on my phone and come across a photo that I took a couple of years ago on a trip that I may have forgotten this specific moment, during the trip, but there's a photo there, and it, help bring back those memories. So yeah, I think it's less about like understanding me, more about helping me explore the world and understand it better. But it's just like an extra little tool that I have on top of my own desire to just go and experience it firsthand anyway. If that makes sense.
It makes perfect sense. For me, I've discovered more and more that I use the camera as a buffer to the world. Everybody says that they look at the world through a different lens.
Hmm.
And I think that lens for me is a camera, because if I leave the house, there's some camera on me. It doesn't matter where I'm going. After we get off this call, I have to go pick up my son from the school, and there's a camera coming with me. And then we have wrestling later, and there'll be a camera coming with me. And I'm not good at starting natural conversations, which is hilarious to consider, because I have a podcast, which is fucking nuts. But like the camera is a good conversation starter for me, and it's a good way to like keep the world at bay a little bit. The world has to meet the camera before it meets me, almost. That's how I look at it, and I think that's the way I can sort the world in my mind, is through that camera lens.
Well, I will say that like having a camera on you is such a great icebreaker and conversation starter. Like I've had so many conversations throughout my hikes and travels that never would have happened had I not had a camera on me, because there's a lot of photographers out there, and there's a lot of people interested in what kind of camera you're shooting. Oh, is that especially the film cameras? Because oh, whoa, that's a interesting looking camera, and then you start getting into the whole, well, yeah, it's from 1995 or whatever, and um, so I've noticed that on top of just having the camera as a tool to help you better understand people and cultures and document the world, it's just a great tool to have to spark conversations with people that, especially for introverted people that maybe aren't willing to just go out and say, hey, what's your name, where are you from. Having the camera around you definitely draws people in, I've noticed. And so yeah, like if you're a traveler or whatever and you don't have a camera on you, take a trip and just throw an old 35 millimeter film camera around your neck, and you will notice so many more people come up to you and want to start a conversation.
So many old men
Yep.
are about to have a conversation. Dude, it's so many old guys.
Oh yeah.
I have an old guy friend. I didn't meet him through, like, out in public. I met him through the podcast, but he's like this old British punk guy who lives up in the north of England now,
Okay.
dude. He's so funny. I enjoy him very much. But he is somebody who's like, yeah, dude, I'll talk to any young photographer with a film camera.
Yeah,
Those kids
nice.
are cool as shit. I'm like,
That's awesome.
okay, Paul, I appreciate it. I want to end this with one more question, which is, what is a question that you wished more people asked about photography in general?
I'd like to see more people talk about, I think, like, ask questions about the intentions behind photography. It doesn't necessarily matter, I think if you're out photographing the world, photographing your experiences, it's not required to like have some big intention behind it. But I think there's a lot of photographers similar to me that are, kind of a level above like just the everyday walk around with the iPhone, like, because everyone's a photographer in the sense that everyone's got a camera in their pocket these days, and then there's people that have made it a career, and people that make a lot of money photographing, or really busy working photographer, whether it be weddings or commercial or fashion, editorial, whatever. I think I fall somewhere in between there, and just like having conversations about what the intentions are with each other's photography. I think you can learn a lot about other people and about yourself by having those conversations, as opposed to having conversations about, like, oh, what camera are you shooting on? Not that there's anything wrong with that. Like I just mentioned, I've had a lot of great conversations start because somebody asked me what kind of camera I have, or what, kind of film I'm shooting on, or, like, when people see that I'm shooting on a film camera, it's, are you developing your own stuff? Like, do you do darkroom prints? And like, so I like having those technical conversations, but having conversations that involve more of the philosophy and the mindset behind the photographs. I feel like you can learn a lot from people, and it's also a great way to make more meaningful relationships, because I think the technical talk can lead to some surface level conversation, lead to, maybe somebody that you keep in touch with. But when you start having long form conversations like we're having now, and you get more into the why and the intentions, and how it helps each person individually, you start to form more meaningful relationships like that. And it's hard to open up and have those deeper talks. But like, how has photography helped you in your own life? Has it helped you overcome things? Does it help you be more outgoing? Like, talking about that kind of stuff, as opposed to just the things that are maybe surface level and easy to talk about. I think it'll pay dividends for a lot of people as they go about their life. But yeah, I think just, having deeper conversations in general is really important, and something that a lot of people don't do nowadays, because it's so easy just to, talk about, like, tick the boxes in a conversation, what is a conversation made up of? How's the weather? How you doing? How's the family? Blah, blah, blah. And it's like, it's hard to get a deeper conversation going, I think, nowadays. But it's really, really important to do stuff like this, and, learn a little bit more about each other. What makes you tick? Why do you decide to photograph the things that you decide to photograph? And people's history with photography, how'd you get into it? And those kinds of things are really important to talk about, and just interesting to to hear each individual person's story, within photography. I always find it fascinating.
Dude, that is a good answer, and I agree with it. So to promote the podcast, I have a TikTok. Like I don't post. I'll post like little clips and shit from the show on there now and then, but mostly it's just me talking to the phone and like trying to advertise things. And the video that got the most views is I was like, "Are you a film photographer? So am I. Why?"
Yeah.
And dude, that was the whole clip, and that's the one that took off.
Okay.
And there were so many people like telling stories and answers inside this. And I think there's a lot of people that have the how you photograph, like the gear, the technical stuff. But the minute you ask another photographer why they're using a film camera or why they're doing some kind of project, I think that's where a lot of the opening up does come from. Thought process is what interests me most about photography and why I started the podcast. I didn't want it to be a gear circle jerk, because those exist.
Yeah.
They don't need to be there. There's enough of that out there. The why seems to be a large part about why people seem to enjoy the show, because they like that people are opening up. They like that people are talking about the process that goes on in their minds and why they're shooting certain subjects. It's really nice to have these kind of conversations that I don't get to have these conversations in my day-to-day life. So it's nice that other people are willing to have them. So that's a massive thank you for giving this show a shot, because it's a tiny show that it's apparently doing great on Spotify. I just found out. But
Awesome. Congrats.
But thank you so much for coming on, man. It means a lot to me. I know my friend Jess is going to be very excited that you came on. And at the same time, she's going to be absolutely horrified that I told her I was going to say it twice, that she said she loves you and hopes to see more from you soon.
Well, thank you, Jess.
She's the one who shoots Phoenix.
Just off the Phoenix thing, do you know which one? Is it the first one or the second? The first one?
Phoenix 1.
Yeah.
Dude, she bought 7 bricks of it.
Wow. I mean, once I scanned it myself at home, I actually really enjoyed the results, but just had some weird stuff from the lab scans at first, and like was really iffy on it. But then everyone started saying, "Oh, if you scan it at home, it actually is really nice." So I rescanned all my Phoenix shots at home, and definitely was like night and day difference. But I still was like not convinced enough that I wasn't convinced that I could make Phoenix look good enough to like just switch to it entirely. So that's impressive that she's been able to make it work for her. That's sweet.
I'm going to send you her Instagram, dude,
Okay.
because I didn't believe it was Phoenix until she proved it to me.
Wow.
I thought it was like, she's faking this shit. And I called her bluff, and she was 100% shooting
Wow.
Phoenix. It's incredibly well
awesome.
done. I hate how good it is. But thanks again, man. I had a blast. You're very down to earth, very cool, man.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me. Yeah, I think these conversations, doesn't matter if podcast big, small, whatever. It's always beneficial to have these conversations. Even if there wasn't a podcast behind it, like I would have been happy to just hop on and talk photography. Like maybe it's because I lack that, as we talked about. I lack that back home on an everyday basis, but I encourage more people to do it. And, even if it's somebody that you have met on Instagram and DM'd a little bit, like, hey, you want to like hop on a call and just like talk about what's going on? What are you working on? What am I working on? Like you never know what could come from it. Like this trip that I'm going on is because I've been able to meet people on Instagram, and you take it a step further and say like, it's literally like when the trip makes it out of the group chat or whatever, like one of those moments. It's like, whoa, it's actually happening. So you never know what could happen. You never know the friendships and relationships that can stem from, simple conversation. So thanks for having me. And yeah, looking forward to reading some of the Substack and then checking out some more of the podcast episodes. So.